Hey, kids, and welcome to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. I am your host, Dr. Michael Lennox. I'm here as I am every week with producer Zoe, and we are coming at you for August 1st through 7th. It is a new month, and in fact, our podcast Monday is also the same day as the first day of the week, so here we are. Welcome to August!
Hey, Michael. Hey, listeners.
So July was absolutely the roughest energy of the year. So by that token, we enter a calendar month that is not as intense as the last calendar month. But I have to say that the big energy of July was that gathering between North Node, Uranus, and Mars as part of the new moon that we just had last Thursday. But as we enter this first week of August, this is actually the day when the actual conjunction of Mars and Uranus and the North Node that were part of last week's full moon is exact. We're starting the energy off hurtling out of the slingshot in a kind of second bang of energy that started with last Thursday's new moon in Leo, but that continues as we move through the first couple of days of this week, which are very crowded with some complex traffic, which in a moment or two I'll break down for you. But I can safely say that once we do get past the sort of very unstable, slingshotty energy of the first week of this month, it will in fact be a little bit less intense than certainly last month was.
Is all of that part of that cross you were talking about last week?
Yes, absolutely. The fixed grand cross that the new moon in Leo sort of generated created a pattern in the sky last week of the sun and the moon in Leo opposite Saturn. So that means in tight and undeniable interaction with lessons and breakdown and karma and responsibility. And then the other portion of the cross was the nodes of the moon. The south node is the past we're moving away from. The north node is the future we're moving toward. And this portion of that grand cross that I talked about last week with the new moon is getting an emphasis today and tomorrow because Mars is perfecting his conjunction with the North Node and Uranus today and tomorrow. And so there's actually almost more energy present this week, this first week in August, of this grand cross led by this massive conjunction. Let's break that all down once again. So if you remember from last week, I went into great detail about the every 15-year transit of Uranus conjunct the North Node, that we are in a generational kind of forward thrust of new territory that we're moving. The whole collective is sort of going in at the same time and in the same way. It's actually Mars's participation in this that makes this moment, last week's new moon, so the whole lunar cycle, but also this summer in general, winter down under, makes this moment both collective and deeply personal. So the Great Awakener Uranus and the collective point of the North Node ensures that 2022 features an outrageously destabilizing, powerful thrust forward into brand new territory. And there isn't anybody who would listen to that little statement I just made and not say, oh, yes, I agree.
Right.
Don't know where we're going and can feel that it's moving faster than I can almost handle.
Yeah, I think most people can identify with this.
Yeah, you're right. There's no denying that. But the presence of a personal planet engaged in this conjunction that is transpersonal is what is making this summer, winter down under, a period of time where each of us in our personal journey might find ourselves thrust in a very destabilizing way into completely new territory, with an emphasis on last week and this week as potential for suddenly having to pivot or adjust or move in brand new directions, either from an inner inspiration or from bumping into outside circumstances that force you to have to change your plans on a dime.
Woof. Raise your hand if you identify.
Right. One of the things that is built into a moment like this astrologically, by virtue of having a personal planet part of this larger thrust of energy, is that in the next 2 years, as Mars moves around the entire ecliptic, he's going to take with him the consciousness of this moment where our embodiment archetype, Mars, is getting marching orders, or rather sprinting orders, if you will, from the planet that represents waking up to higher levels of awareness and the collective point of the North Node. So that as he moves out of Taurus and into Gemini and then Cancer and then Leo, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all of the Mars transits that hit any of us over the next 2 years will have the capacity to generate new behaviors that respond to this moment's upgrade, that we will be making new choices vis-a-vis what's going on this summer for the next 2 years. I spoke about this a lot with Venus this year, in that Venus hung out with Pluto during her retrograde in the first months of this year, and that was deeply transformative to our emotional and our intimacy experiences. And then as Venus will travel around the entire ecliptic over the next 2 years, our heart experience will shift and change in those future moments based on the deeper transformations we went through in the first months of 2022. So by the same token, things that come up for us now and this couple of months around new directions, the ways you want to focus the resources of your physical energy, how you relate to your physical body vis-a-vis health and wellness and treating your body in a loving manner, anything Martian is going to have the capacity to be bringing fast, sudden new choices over the next 2 years as Mars travels all the way around the zodiac.
It seems like this year is really an opportunity to level up.
Well, absolutely so. In fact, I would say that is the opportunity and important to do, because the next couple of years are going to get more difficult on the planet vis-a-vis astrology reflecting challenges and conflicts that play out at the collective level. In fact, I hesitate to even put this out, but the next time that Mars will be back here at 18 degrees of Taurus happens to be July 4th, 2023, the birth date of the United States. And it comes with a new moon right on top of the sun of the Cancer-led chart for the USA. So there are energies that are showing up in the collective right now that are going to come home to roost for the United States of America in 2 years. And because Mars is present as a personal planet, the same can be said of each of our individual journeys as well. That we are, over the next 2 years, going to be responding greatly in terms of decisions we make over the next 2 years based on the up-leveling that is possible this year, with an emphasis on these middle months of the year. So you're absolutely right. So it is an opportunity to up-level. And it has never been more important to attend to this at the personal level, so that there's more people on the planet in the collective holding a higher vibration, so that as we move through the next 2 years and have some of the challenges that the world is going to demand that we respond to, that we are all responding from a higher up-leveled place in our consciousness, so that we can make choices that serve the collective in a positive way over the next couple of years. So there's a couple of things to talk about with regard to this week, especially early in the week, these first couple of days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So if you're listening to this podcast as soon as it comes out, that's great. We're right in the peak of this particular wave of Mars conjuncting the North Node and Uranus. And there's what's called a finger of God playing out these couple of days with Mercury that will connect to what's happening with Mars, Uranus, and the North Node that make the decisions we each make this week to count more than the average bear. Here's why. The general reason why is because the stakes are so flippin' high and because the world's in a little bit of trouble. And so the choices we make count more because everything has repercussions for not only ourselves, but our immediate environment and the collective itself. That's the why of it. But the assistance that we're receiving these couple of days is what I want to talk about. So for one thing, this gathering of Mars, the North Node, and Uranus is generating choices that we need to make about moving forward. And over on the side, about 60 degrees away in a sextile, is Venus, the planet of love and the heart center, deeply connected to our feelings, places, and spaces because she's in Cancer right now. So the fact that as Mars is sort of slingshotting us forward, where any decisions that we've made last week or this week, just the whole sort of 2 weeks, or the last week of July and the first week of August, every decision we make has the potential for hurtling us forward. So we have to be more mindful about choices we make. We don't want to be random or non-thoughtful. That's not a good phrase, but
Careless?
Thank you very much. So, careless. Don't be careless about any decisions you're making right now because they will move you faster than you can whoa Nelly and try to hold back movement forward from decisions you make. And the fact that Venus in Cancer is addressing Mars, Uranus, and the North Node in this productive geometry of the sextile means that if we stop for a moment and pause a bit and make decisions that involve our entire sensibility, which includes our inner feelings, we're going to be making more conscious choices that involve care and not carelessness. So there's guidance available these couple of days from Mercury forming what's called a finger of God with Neptune and Pluto. Yummy little time. I sometimes just love saying that phrase.
No, that's totally my favorite term. I mean, the whole cross thing was cool. That was new to me, but finger
you like
of God.
that too, right.
Yeah, but finger of God is my favorite astrology term.
Well, I love it too. And for those who don't like the G word, these are also called finger of fate. And they are navigating geometries that help us move forward, not in a direct line, but the idea that sometimes how we get from where we are to where we want to go is to make lots and lots of little adjustments. And this week is all about that. A finger of God or a finger of fate is a long, narrow triangle that's created when two planets are on one side of the cosmos in a productive sextile. Two planets have to be relating to each other in this geometry of potential in order for a finger of God to be present. In this case, it's Neptune, spirit, and Pluto, shadow, power, and authority. Then the long, narrow triangle is generated when a planet is across the sky from the two planets that are in a sextile, and that across the sky planet is relating back to each of those planets in a sextile in the 150-degree angle we call the Great Eliminator. The Great Eliminator, the 150-degree angle, says we can make small choices now, like to raise the sail of your sailboat. That's the small choice. I think I'll raise my sails and point them in this direction. And then the finger of God, finger of fate piece is that under this energetic influence, any choices that you do make will be supported by the winds of fate, the winds of God, and you will You are more likely to make decisions under this kind of an influence that the universe itself is ready to support you with and move you forward. So Mercury is the pointy end of this particular pattern this week. So that means our guidance, thought processes, our conversations with others, both the ones you expect to have and the ones that you did not expect to have. We are being pummeled with guidance from Mercury these couple of days, responding to the finger of God possibility that Neptune and Pluto holding the sextile offer. Neptune is about faith, moving forward without evidence and trusting in both flow and your sense that your life is guided by larger forces. Pluto says the power and authority I seek or that I need to make my things happen with power and presence in the world of form requires that I dive into the blow, that I recognize that I'm the powerful one, and that if I don't think that's true and I'm fighting with my own sense of power, that's some shadow work that's needed. And that is the other sort of blunt end of this powerful pattern that says, as I do my shadow work and as I remember my connection to spirit, my guidance mechanism will tell me where I need to go. So having a couple of days right in the heels of a new moon in Leo, where we're setting intentions to be more powerful, effective, and self-expressive in the world, while our guidance system of thought, Mercury, is saying, pay attention to what you're thinking, what you're talking about, who you're talking about those things with, and the way that Mercury can guide us in roundabout ways, in, through synchronicities and happy accidents, because these first few days of the week will feature lots of important, I think I'll turn left here instead of right. I think I'll let go of that old project that had grabbed me for so while. My creativity says move in this direction. There's such a setup for fast and furious pivots last week and this week. I urge you all to let the horizon of your life potentially surprise you and then go in the new direction, whatever that new idea sort of tells you. Mercury is in Leo, and Mercury in Leo says, I know how I fit. I know how I work. I know what I contribute. Leo is very self-aware and powerful guy, energy for expressing the self. So Mercury in Leo will carry our intentions, but man, oh man, you need to let things shift and change and pivot and reinvent themselves as you go last week and this week. So do your best not to overthink what I've just told you, while at the same time, somewhat self-consciously looking around for the new ideas or the funny happenstance potential, messages through Mercury's movement, right? So you want to do both. Be sort of looking out there for some new idea, but also trusting your own sort of inner, decision-making process. And when in doubt, remember that Venus in Cancer is directly dialed into our emotional body in such a way that Venus in Cancer will tell you whether something is safe or not to choose. So remember to do that as you approach these first couple of days of the week, and have at it.
All right, we have some announcements.
Yes, actually, two announcements. First of all, it's the first Thursday of the month, this Thursday.
That was my first thought, first Thursday.
Thursday evening, August 4th, 7 p.m. Pacific time, in my Zoom space, I'll be doing my monthly global healing meditation. We'll talk all about the month of August and what it has in store for us. And then I will lead a group meditation towards the end of that. It's an in-out 7 to 8 1-hour experience. I love these gatherings. Please join live. It's completely free. michaellennox.com. Scroll down to the blog articles, and there's one devoted to the global healing meditation. And that's where the link is. And of course, if you're on my mailing list, you will already get the link each month. So if you're hearing this and you're not on my mailing list, go to michaellennox.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Get on that.
But I'm also teaching my next advanced astrology class this Saturday on August 6th. It's Neptune transits.
Ooh.
It's already registered and open for joining. It'll be a 3-hour class. Of course, you don't have to show up live. You can join and listen to the recording. But also head over to michaellennox.com. Look under classes for information about advanced astrology Neptune transits this Saturday. Hope to see some of you there.
It's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. This week, we have a dreamer calling in from Virginia, and she's actually my cousin. Welcome, Miley.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, Miley, Zoe's cousin.
Hello.
So, but I understand, we did a little chatting offline before we started this, though, that this is like even news to some of Zoe's family that Zoe even has a podcast that they're involved in.
We know that Zoe has like some awesome projects that they've worked on. And we hear about like a lot of different ones. So every time we like hear about something, we're like, okay, cool. So when Zoe was like, hey, do you want to do this? I was like, of course.
So you don't really quite know exactly what you're getting into here, do you?
I was told dream interpretation and I was like, okay, I'm down.
Well, indeed, that's what this is. I've been interpreting dreams for thousands of years since I was a teenager. So welcome to the podcast, Miley, Zoe's cousin. What you dreaming about?
So I have had this recurring dream since I was a child. When I was a child, I used to have it sometimes 5 to 6 times a year. And then after I sort of transitioned into adulthood, I only have it about once a year now. Sometimes I have it twice a year. So what the dream is basically is that I know that I'm almost in like a very large stadium-like thing. And it's Olympic-sized pools that are next to each other. So when I walk into this gate, I'm walking down the cement path, which for some reason is a very skinny path. And as soon as I look next to myself, there are multiple Olympic-sized pools that are filled with sharks. And this like very strong sense of doom and fear comes over me. And I just basically like know that almost like impending death is coming, but the dream always ends once I'm walking through this pool. So, you know, there's a lot more detail to like the walking and the color and this and that, but that's the gist of the dream that has been recurring since I was a child.
Got it. 5, 6 times a year in childhood, but you're still having it. Can I ask how old you are?
I'm 36.
Okay, got it. Let me just ask you a little bit of a question about your family of origin experience. What was the permission level of emotions and deep feelings in your family environment?
Oh, that is a good one. So I feel like my family probably would have said, oh, we encouraged, open expression. But honestly, now that I've reflected back on it in adulthood, we definitely didn't have that option. So, we talked about emotion and like we said, I love you and things like that. But the actual extent of saying like, oh, I'm feeling frustrated because I am not allowed to go to this sleepover, those things probably weren't as encouraged.
A little context, Michael. It's an Irish Catholic thing, That's a factor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, got it. So lots of kids and lots of regimented sort of ways of being in the world.
Yeah, especially from Boston. So
Oh my God, the cat.
very
Okay, all
Irish
right, got it,
Catholic.
got it. That's a very
Yeah.
clear sort of cultural milieu. Thank you for that distinction. So
Yes.
the reason I asked the question is because anytime we're in water in a dream, we're in some sort of a consideration of our emotional experience.
Mm.
So a pool that's Olympic size has this implication of effort or discipline or some kind of a regimented way we have to deal with our emotions.
Yes.
That's hence you used Olympic size swimming pool. That image has a very different connotation than, a kiddie pool or an above ground pool or a pool at a spa, right? Olympic size swimming pool means we're in some consideration of life as a difficult process that requires discipline and a repeated experience to get better and better at it. Sharks in the pool suggest the difficult, challenging emotions that are terrifying to us, that sort of keep us from letting ourselves be more vulnerable and dropping into feeling states, because feeling is vulnerable. That's kind of like a shark in the water. And then if there's an acculturated perspective of, we don't quite go there, then feelings and deep emotions, and therefore sharks that live in water, sort of come together as a great symbol of, if I get too emotional, I might get eaten by a deep feeling, shark. But if I don't allow myself to get emotional on a regular basis, how am I going to build the skills necessary to be a functioning, vulnerable, open human being? Hence the Olympicness of the pool. I love the stadium consciousness, because that to me is like the world's collective ideas, right? The many, 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 many people in a stadium is like a symbol of, this is how most people think. This is how society is structured, the stadium. So if you're moving out into the world where it doesn't feel safe to be as emotional as you might be in the inside of you in a sort of an organic way, then all those people in the stadium are like the way the world is working, and you've got to sort of make your way in this collective consciousness of the stadium while acknowledging that there's this emotional efficacy you're trying to work on, which is hindered by the fact that emotions are so scary to dive into.
Makes a lot of sense.
Now, I'm guessing there had to have been a media image that might have shown up somewhere in your early childhood experience that might have made sharks particularly sort of vibrant.
Well, I grew up in Hawaii.
Oh.
So I grew up swimming in the ocean, and I always kind of had like this conscientiousness, like, just make sure that you're not swimming in murky water. There are definitely sharks on the coast of the island. It was rare that we had shark attacks, but, something about that kind of, I think, being in the ocean and being aware that I'm not the only creature taking up this space definitely affected me.
So then we've got a culture there where then shark becomes a ubiquitous image of that which you must be mindful of because danger lurks in the ocean. And then we translate that into symbolic meaning. And we have a regularly occurring dream in your childhood, which means this dream helped you regulate your emotional experience. It helped you balance between your inner need to know yourself emotionally, but your outer need to sort of capitulate to the collective's movement, to be like everybody else, to sort of toe the family line of, we go there, but we don't go there. How deep can we go? Not so deep. So you needed this level of regulation 5 or 6 times a year when you were a child. And now that you're fully into your vibrant adulthood, this dream is probably coming once a year or so when you are triggered by vulnerability or deep feelings that in the inside of you, there's a sense of, danger, I wasn't prepared for this. But in fact, your unconscious is helping you deal with your deep emotional self by having this dream periodically getting you back into connection with your deeper emotional self. That's scary and vulnerable, but you're willing because you've learned a lot over your lifetime.
Fascinating. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now. As soon as you mentioned just some of the concepts and how they translate, I was like, wow, spot on.
Well, and so now you have something that you can attend to the next time this dream comes up. So the next time you have this dream, just stop a moment, look around the landscape of your life and say, all right, what vulnerability needs my attention right now? Because clearly my unconscious knows, and it's signaling this dream as if to say, all right, Miley, now we're in a moment where we've got to be more comfortable with our deeper emotional, vulnerable experience.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. That is
Yay!
wonderful. Thank you so much.
I love that you came on. I love that Zoe's cousin came on to the podcast. That is awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.